I walked into my own beach house without warning and found my daughter's husband tangled in my guest bed with a woman who wasn't my daughter. The shock of that moment would set off a chain of events that would tear apart everything my family thought they knew about trust, loyalty, and the price of keeping secrets. My name is Margaret Hartwell. I'm 62 years old, and I've spent the last 30 years building a successful real estate business in Charleston, South Carolina. I've always believed in handling things with dignity and discretion, but what I discovered that afternoon in my Folly Beach house would test every principle I'd ever held dear. It was a humid Thursday in late June when I decided to drive out to the beach house. The morning had started like any other, with my usual routine of coffee on the veranda of my historic downtown Charleston home, checking emails, and reviewing property listings. But something felt off that day. Maybe it was Mother's intuition, or maybe it was the fact that my daughter Claire had been acting strangely for weeks. Her voice strained during our phone calls, her excuses for not visiting becoming more elaborate. She'd married Bradley Morrison 3 years ago, in what everyone called the wedding of the season. He came from old Charleston money, worked at his father's investment firm, and seemed like everything a mother could want for her only daughter. Seemed being the operative word. The drive to Folly Beach usually calms me. The way the landscape shifts from the elegant historic district to the marshlands, then finally to the casual beach town atmosphere. It's a journey I've made hundreds of times. I'd bought the beach house 15 years ago, after my husband Richard passed away. It was supposed to be my sanctuary, a place where Claire could bring her future children for summer weekends, where family memories would be made. I decorated it myself, choosing every piece of driftwood art, every soft blue cushion, every white linen curtain that would billow in the ocean breeze. That house represented hope and new beginnings. I had no idea it would become the setting for such devastating betrayal. I hadn't called ahead because I didn't think I needed to. The house was mine, after all. Claire and Bradley had keys because I'd insisted they use it whenever they wanted. I'd told them it was as much theirs as mine, that they should treat it like their own private getaway. As I pulled into the crushed shell driveway around 2 p.m, I noticed Bradley's silver BMW parked under the house. That was my first moment of unease. Bradley should have been at work. He'd recently been promoted to senior portfolio manager, and he made a point of telling everyone how demanding his new position was. So why was his car at my beach house on a Thursday afternoon? If you're following along with this story and want to hear more real-life dramas unfold, please hit that subscribe button. We're working toward our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything. Click subscribe now and join our growing community. I grabbed my overnight bag from the passenger seat and climbed the wooden stairs to the main entrance. The house sits on stilts, as most coastal properties do, elevated to protect against flooding and storms. The stairs creaked under my feet, a familiar sound that usually brought me comfort. But that day, each creak felt like a warning I was too distracted to heed. I unlocked the front door and stepped into the cool, air-conditioned interior. Everything looked normal at first glance. The open-concept living room and kitchen were tidy, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the ocean. A half-empty bottle of wine sat on the kitchen counter next to 2 glasses that were smudged with fingerprints and lipstick marks. My heart started to beat faster. I set my bag down quietly, suddenly aware that I was moving like an intruder in my own home. I could hear faint sounds coming from the guest bedroom at the end of the hall. Music, I thought at first, or maybe a television left on. But as I moved closer, the sounds became unmistakable. Laughter, a woman's voice, breathy and intimate. Then Bradley's voice, lower, saying something I couldn't make out, followed by more laughter. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. Part of me wanted to turn around, walk back out, pretend I'd never come. But I couldn't. I had to know. I had to see with my own eyes what my mind was already screaming at me. I pushed the door open. The scene before me is burned into my memory with the kind of clarity that trauma provides. Bradley was in bed with a woman I'd never seen before. She was young, probably late 20s, with long dark hair spread across my expensive linen pillowcases. They were so caught up in each other that they didn't hear the door open immediately. For a few seconds, that felt like hours. I just stood there, frozen, watching my son-in-law betray my daughter in the most intimate way possible. Then, Bradley's eyes met mine over the woman's shoulder, and I watched the color drain from his face. He jerked away from her, scrambling for the sheet, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. The woman screamed and grabbed for her clothes, which were scattered across the hardwood floor I'd recently had refinished. I just stood there, one hand still on the doorknob, the other pressed against my chest where my heart was hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. Nobody spoke for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only seconds. The ceiling fan whirred overhead, and through the window, I could see the ocean continuing its endless rhythm, completely indifferent to the destruction happening inside this house. "Margaret," Bradley finally managed to say, his voice strangled. He'd wrapped the sheet around his waist and was standing now, one hand raised as if he could somehow stop what was already happening. "This isn't. I can explain. Your subscription helps us continue sharing these powerful real-life stories. If you haven't already, please click that subscribe button. We're on a journey to reach 1,000 subscribers, and you can be part of that milestone. Hit subscribe now." "Get out," I said, and I was surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Inside, I was shaking apart. But years of negotiating real estate deals and maintaining composure in difficult situations had trained me well. "Both of you, get dressed and get out of my house." The woman whose name I didn't know and didn't want to know was crying now, grabbing her clothes and running toward the bathroom. Bradley stood there, still attempting to form words that might make sense of this. "Margaret, please, just let me." I said, "Get out." I stepped back from the doorway and walked to the living room, my legs somehow carrying me even though I felt like I might collapse. I heard frantic movement in the bedroom, whispered urgent conversation, the sound of zippers and doors. I stood at the window, staring out at the ocean, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. How long had this been going on? How many times had Bradley brought this woman to my beach house? How many lies had he told my daughter? How many times had I sat across from him at Sunday dinners, believing he was a good husband to Claire? Bradley emerged first, fully dressed but disheveled, his hair sticking up on one side. The woman followed, her eyes red, refusing to look at me as she hurried toward the door. Bradley stopped in the living room, trying one more time. "Margaret, I am so sorry. This was a terrible mistake. Please don't tell Claire. I love her. This doesn't mean anything." I turned from the window and looked at him. Really looked at him. 3 years ago, I'd welcomed this man into my family. I'd helped Claire plan their wedding. I'd sat in the front pew and cried happy tears as they exchanged vows. I'd believed he would take care of my daughter, protect her, build a life with her. And here he was, begging me to keep his dirty secret. "Get out of my house," I repeated. "And if you're not home when I call Claire in 1 hour to tell her I need to see her, I will tell her everything over the phone. You have 60 minutes to decide how you want this to go." He opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to realize it was pointless. He left, and I heard his car start, heard the crunch of shells as he backed out of the driveway. Then silence. Just me and the ocean and the wreckage of what I'd discovered. I walked back to the guest bedroom and stripped the bed, shoving everything into a garbage bag. I couldn't stand the thought of those sheets, those pillowcases that I'd chosen so carefully, being touched by that betrayal. I carried the bag outside and threw it in the outdoor trash bin, then went back inside and poured myself a glass of wine from that half-empty bottle on the counter. My hands were shaking now that I was alone. If this story is resonating with you, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Click the subscribe button and become part of our community. I sat on the couch and called Claire. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright. "Hi, Mom. I was just thinking about you. How's your day going?" "How's my day going?" I almost laughed. "Claire, honey, I need you to come to the beach house. Now. Today. It's important." Her voice shifted immediately to concern. "What's wrong? Are you okay? Are you sick?" "I'm fine, but I need to see you. Can you come now?" "Mom, you're scaring me. What's happened?" "I couldn't do this over the phone. I just couldn't." "Please, Claire, just come. I'll explain everything when you get here." She agreed, confused and worried, and hung up. I sat there for the next hour and a half watching the clock, sipping wine I couldn't taste, preparing myself for the conversation that would break my daughter's heart. When I finally heard her car pull up, I felt sick. She bounded up the stairs the way she always did, full of energy and life. Claire is 30 years old, a pediatric nurse at MUSC, with my red hair and her father's green eyes. She's always been trusting, almost to a fault, seeing the best in everyone. It's one of the things I love most about her, and one of the things that has worried me most. "Mom?" She came through the door, her face flushed from the drive, immediately scanning me for signs of illness or injury. "What's going on? You look pale. Sit down. Let me check you." "I'm fine, sweetheart. Sit down, please." She sat across from me, her purse still on her shoulder, her keys clutched in her hand. "You're freaking me out. Just tell me what's wrong." So I did. I told her everything. I watched her face change as I spoke. Watched disbelief turn to confusion. Confusion turned to horror. Horror turned to this awful blank expression that was somehow worse than tears. She didn't interrupt me. She just sat there, frozen, as I described walking into the bedroom, what I'd seen, what Bradley had said. When I finished, the silence in the room was suffocating. "Claire," I said softly, "say something, please." She stood up abruptly and walked to the window, the same window I'd stood at earlier. Her shoulders were rigid, her hands clenched at her sides. "How long?" she asked. "Did he say how long this has been going on?" "He didn't say anything, except that it was a mistake and that he loved you." She laughed, but it was a hollow sound that made my heart ache. "A mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on the way home. This is..." She trailed off, pressing her hand against her mouth. Subscribe to our channel if you want to continue following stories like this one. We're building a community of 1,000 subscribers who appreciate real, raw, honest narratives. Hit that subscribe button now. "I need to call him," she said suddenly. "I need to hear this from him." "Claire, honey, I saw them. There's nothing he can say that will change what happened. I still need to hear it from him." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and dialed. I could hear it ringing on speaker. Bradley answered immediately. "Claire," he said, and his voice was thick with emotion. "Baby, please, let me explain." "Is it true?" she asked, and her voice was so calm it scared me. "What my mother told me. Is it true?" There was a pause. "Yes. But Claire, you have to understand." "Don't," she cut him off. "Don't you dare. How long, Bradley? How long have you been sleeping with her?" "It's been a few months. But it doesn't mean anything. I love you. You're my wife. This was just..." "Where are you right now?" "I'm at home. I came straight here. Please come home so we can talk about this." "I'll be there to pack my things. You need to leave. Go to your parents' house or a hotel. I don't care where. But you need to not be there when I arrive. Claire, please, don't do this. We can work through this. Couples therapy, whatever you want. I'll do anything." You should have thought about that before you brought your mistress to my mother's beach house. Before you had sex with her in a bed surrounded by family photos. Before you violated every promise you made to me. Her voice finally cracked on the last sentence. I want you gone when I get there. If you're not, I'll call the police and have you removed. She hung up before he could respond and stood there, phone in hand, staring at nothing. Then she turned to me with tears finally streaming down her face. I need you to come with me, Mom. I can't go alone. I don't trust myself to be alone. We drove back to Charleston in separate cars, and I followed her to the Mount Pleasant home she'd shared with Bradley. It was a beautiful low-country style house with a wraparound porch, a house she'd fallen in love with, a house where she'd planned to raise children. Bradley's car was gone, as promised. We spent the next 4 hours packing Claire's belongings. She moved through the house methodically, taking her clothes, her books, her grandmother's china that I'd given her as a wedding gift. She left behind the furniture they'd bought together, the wedding photos that lined the hallway, the life they'd built, or thought they'd built. If you're invested in finding out what happens next, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and we'd love for you to be part of that journey. Click subscribe. She didn't cry much while we packed. She was focused, efficient, almost mechanical. It wasn't until we were loading the last box into her car that she collapsed against my shoulder and sobbed. I held her in that driveway as the sun set over Charleston Harbor, held her the way I'd held her when she was a little girl with scraped knees, wishing I could fix this as easily as I'd once fixed those minor childhood hurts. Claire stayed with me that night, and for many nights after. She moved back into her childhood bedroom temporarily while she figured out her next steps. The betrayal had been devastating, but watching her pain was worse. I'd always been able to protect her from hurt, but I couldn't protect her from this. Bradley tried to reach her constantly. Phone calls, texts, emails, even showing up at the hospital where she worked until security had to escort him away. He sent flowers, letters, even tried to go through me, begging me to convince Claire to give him another chance. I had no sympathy for him. None. He'd made his choices, and now he had to live with the consequences. What infuriated me most was learning the full extent of his deception. Through mutual friends and Claire's own investigation, we discovered that the affair had been going on for nearly 8 months. The woman's name was Jessica. She worked at Bradley's firm as a junior analyst, and this wasn't their first time at my beach house. They'd been using it regularly, probably every time Bradley told Claire he had a business trip or a client meeting. My sanctuary, my haven, had been desecrated repeatedly by their lies. Claire filed for divorce within 2 weeks. South Carolina has a 1-year separation requirement, but she wanted the legal process started immediately. She was done, finished, completely through with Bradley Morrison and everything he represented. She threw herself into work, picking up extra shifts at the hospital, anything to keep her mind occupied. I watched her struggle through grief, anger, and eventually a kind of numb acceptance that broke my heart in new ways every day. The story spread through Charleston's social circles like wildfire. Old money families loved their gossip, and Bradley's infidelity was juicy fodder for country club lunches and cocktail parties. The Morrisons tried to do damage control, with Bradley's mother actually having the audacity to suggest that perhaps Claire hadn't been attentive enough to her husband's needs. I ran into her at a charity event and told her exactly what I thought of that theory, in terms that made several nearby attendees drop their champagne glasses. I didn't care about maintaining social niceties anymore. They'd hurt my daughter, and I was done being polite about it. We're so close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and your support means the world. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and help us reach our goal. The beach house became a problem. Claire couldn't stand the thought of going there, knowing what had happened in those rooms. I couldn't blame her. I'd gone back once to retrieve some personal items and ended up selling it within a month. I couldn't walk through those rooms without seeing Bradley and that woman, without feeling the violation of my space and my trust. I took a loss on the sale because I needed it gone. Some things aren't worth holding on to, no matter how much money you've invested. Months passed. Summer turned to fall, and Claire slowly started to rebuild her life. She moved into a small cottage in the old village, a charming neighborhood with tree-lined streets and neighbors who looked out for each other. She adopted a rescue dog, a sweet mutt named Murphy, who became her constant companion. She started going to therapy, working through the trauma and betrayal. She even started dating again, cautiously, taking things slow. I watched her heal, gradually, painfully, one day at a time. Bradley, meanwhile, self-destructed, spectacularly. The affair became public knowledge at his firm, creating a hostile work environment that eventually led to his resignation. Jessica transferred to another company, and according to the rumor mill, their relationship fell apart within months. Bradley's reputation in Charleston's business community was destroyed. The trust that's essential in wealth management evaporated when clients learned about his personal dishonesty. He ended up moving to Atlanta, starting over somewhere his name didn't carry the weight of scandal. I ran into him once, about a year after everything happened. I was at the Charleston City Market buying sweetgrass baskets for some out-of-town clients, and there he was, back in town for something, looking haggard and older than his 33 years. He saw me and actually approached, which took either courage or stupidity. "Mrs. Hartwell," he said quietly. "I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I need to say it. I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry for everything I did. To Claire, to you, to everyone. There's not a day that goes by that I don't regret my choices." I looked at him for a long moment. This man who'd once been part of my family, who I'd welcomed and trusted and loved like a son. "Bradley, I appreciate that you're sorry. But sorry doesn't undo the damage. Sorry doesn't give Claire back the years she wasted on you. Sorry doesn't restore the trust you destroyed. You need to live with what you did, learn from it, and be better if you ever have another chance at love. But you don't get forgiveness from me. That's not mine to give. Please subscribe to our channel and help us hit 1,000 subscribers. Your support keeps these stories coming and builds our community. Click that subscribe button now." He nodded, accepting that, and walked away. I haven't seen him since. Claire has moved on more completely than I thought possible. 2 years after the divorce was finalized, she met someone new. His name is Thomas. He's a high school history teacher, and he treats her with the respect and devotion she always deserved. They're taking things slow, building something real on a foundation of honesty and trust. Watching them together, seeing Claire laugh again without that shadow of pain in her eyes, it's helped heal something in me too. I never bought another beach house. That dream died in that guest bedroom on that horrible Thursday afternoon. But I've made peace with it. Some dreams need to die to make room for better ones. Claire and Thomas are talking about getting married eventually, about building their own family. When that happens, I'll be there, celebrating a love that's genuine and true. Looking back, I'm glad I went to the beach house that day. As devastating as the discovery was, it was better than Claire finding out some other way. Or worse, never finding out at all. She deserved the truth, no matter how painful. She deserved the chance to make an informed choice about her life and her marriage. And I'm proud of how she handled it. She didn't crumble. She didn't stay in a relationship built on lies. She chose herself, her dignity, her future. That takes incredible strength. The betrayal taught us both important lessons. It taught Claire that love without honesty is worthless, that you can't build a life with someone who doesn't respect you enough to be faithful. It taught me that you can never really know what's happening behind closed doors, that people you trust can still disappoint you in profound ways. But it also taught us that we're stronger than we thought, that we can survive devastation and come out the other side, changed, but not broken. If you've been following this journey with us, please make sure you're subscribed. We're building toward 1,000 subscribers, and we want you to be part of our community. Hit that subscribe button. The hardest part wasn't the divorce proceedings or the gossip or even the financial disentanglement. The hardest part was watching Claire lose her faith in love, seeing her question whether any relationship could be trusted. But Thomas has helped restore that faith, slowly, patiently, proving through his actions that not all men are like Bradley, that commitment and fidelity aren't outdated concepts. She's learning to trust again, and that's perhaps the greatest victory of all. I think about that day often, walking into my own house and having my world turned upside down. I think about how one moment can change everything, how quickly security can become chaos. But I also think about resilience, about how the human heart can break and mend, and somehow keep beating. Claire's heart broke that day, and mine broke watching hers break. But we both survived. We both moved forward. We both found reasons to believe in hope again. The beach house is gone, sold to a young family who'll hopefully fill it with better memories than the ones it holds for us. Bradley is gone, living his diminished life in another city. The marriage is gone, dissolved legally and emotionally. But what remains is stronger for having weathered this storm. Claire and I have always been close, but surviving this together created a bond that nothing can break. We know now that we can handle anything life throws at us, that we have each other's backs no matter what. Sometimes people ask me if I regret walking in that day, if ignorance would have been bliss. The answer is always no. Truth, no matter how painful, is always better than comfortable lies. Claire deserved to know who she was married to, what kind of man she'd pledged her life to. She deserved the opportunity to choose something better. And she did choose better. She chose herself, her dignity, her future. She chose to not settle for scraps of affection from a man who couldn't honor his vows. Make sure you're part of our growing community by clicking subscribe. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support makes all the difference. Subscribe now. The irony isn't lost on me that Bradley's downfall came from using my generosity against me. I'd given them access to the beach house out of love, wanting them to have a place to strengthen their marriage. Instead, he used it to destroy that marriage. There's a kind of poetic justice in that. He was caught in the act of betrayal, in the very place meant to nurture their relationship. His own arrogance and carelessness led to his exposure. Charleston society eventually moved on to new scandals, as it always does. But the people who matter, the real friends who stood by Claire through everything, they haven't forgotten. They see Thomas and Claire together at gatherings, see how he looks at her, how he treats her, and they understand what real love looks like. Bradley is remembered, when he's remembered at all, as a cautionary tale, an example of how quickly you can lose everything through your own stupid choices. Claire and I have created new traditions. We still love the beach, so we rent houses in Folly Beach or Sullivan's Island for long weekends. We've reclaimed that joy without the baggage of ownership. Murphy loves these trips. Running on the sand, chasing waves, living his best dog life. Thomas joins us sometimes, and I love watching him and Claire walk the beach at sunset, their futures stretching out before them full of possibility. The hardest conversations were the ones about trust and forgiveness. Claire struggled for a long time with anger, not just at Bradley but at herself for not seeing the signs. There probably weren't obvious signs. Bradley was too practiced a liar for that, but she blamed herself anyway. It took therapy and time for her to understand that his betrayal was about his character flaws, not her failures. She was a loving, attentive wife. He was a cheating husband. The blame lies entirely with him. I struggled too, with guilt. Should I have seen something? Should I have questioned why Bradley wanted to use the beach house so often? Should I have noticed something off in their marriage? My therapist, yes, I started seeing one too, helped me understand that I couldn't have known. Bradley was living a double life, and people who do that are experts at compartmentalization and deception. I did what any mother would do. I trusted my son-in-law and wanted to support my daughter's marriage. That trust was misplaced, but having trust isn't a character flaw. Your subscription helps us continue sharing these powerful stories of resilience and survival. Please click subscribe and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Join our community now. Time has a way of putting things in perspective. What felt like the end of the world 3 years ago now feels like a difficult but necessary chapter in our lives. Claire is happy now, genuinely happy in a way she never was with Bradley. I can see it in her eyes, hear it in her laugh. She's lighter somehow, freed from the weight of a dishonest relationship. Thomas proposed last month, and she said yes. The wedding is planned for next spring. A small ceremony at a historic Charleston garden, with only close friends and family. When she told me about the engagement, she cried, but they were good tears. I didn't think I'd ever want to get married again, she admitted. I thought Bradley ruined that for me. But Thomas makes me believe in marriage again. He makes me believe in us. That's healing. That's victory. Not just surviving the betrayal, but thriving after it. Finding love again, better love, honest love. Building a life on a foundation that won't crumble because it's built on truth and mutual respect. I'm so proud of my daughter for having the courage to believe again, for not letting Bradley's betrayal turn her bitter and closed off. As for me, I've learned that sometimes the worst moments lead to the most important discoveries. If I hadn't walked into that beach house, if I hadn't seen what I saw, Claire might have wasted years more on a man who didn't deserve her. She might have had children with him, tying herself to him permanently. The pain of discovery was acute, but the pain of a prolonged lie would have been far worse. Sometimes the universe intervenes in brutal ways to redirect our paths. I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I handled that crisis with grace I didn't know I possessed. I supported my daughter through her darkest time without falling apart myself. I protected her, stood by her, helped her rebuild. That's what mothers do. But knowing I could do it, actually living through it, gave me a confidence I carry into everything now. I know I can handle whatever life brings, because I've already handled one of the worst things I could imagine. Before we wrap up this story, please make sure you're subscribed to our channel. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything. Click that subscribe button and be part of our journey. The other day, Claire and I were having coffee on my veranda, planning her wedding. Murphy was sprawled at our feet in the morning sun, and Thomas was inside on a work call. Claire looked at me and said something that made all the pain worth it. "Mom, thank you for telling me the truth that day. Thank you for not letting me live in ignorance. I know it was hard, telling me something that would hurt me so much. But it was the greatest gift you could have given me. It freed me to find real love." That's what parents do. We tell the hard truths. We catch our children when they fall. We help them stand back up. We celebrate their victories and mourn their losses. And sometimes, we walk into beach houses at the wrong moment and discover terrible things. But we do it because we love them, because their happiness matters more than our own comfort. The beach house is gone, but I don't miss it. It served its purpose in an unexpected way. Bradley is gone, and good riddance. The marriage is gone, dissolved and forgotten. But what remains is precious. Claire's newfound happiness, her upcoming wedding to a good man, the lessons we both learned about resilience and truth, and the enduring strength of family bonds. Those things are worth more than any beach house, any social standing, any false peace built on lies. Life moves forward. Charleston keeps spinning through its seasons. The harbor reflects sunrises and sunsets with equal beauty. And somewhere in this historic, beautiful, sometimes cruel city, my daughter is planning a wedding to a man who deserves her, building a future on honesty and trust. That's not just survival. That's triumph. That's justice. That's the ending that matters, not the painful middle where everything fell apart. So yes, I walked into my beach house and caught my son-in-law in bed with his mistress. It was devastating and shocking and changed everything. But it also revealed the truth, freed my daughter, and ultimately led to something better. Sometimes the worst discoveries are really disguised blessings, painful gifts wrapped in tragedy that only reveal their value with time and distance. I wouldn't wish that experience on anyone, but I also wouldn't undo it. Because without that terrible Thursday afternoon, Claire might still be trapped in a lie, and freedom, even painful freedom, is always better than a comfortable cage. If you've made it this far in our story, thank you for listening. Please subscribe to our channel to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support keeps these stories coming and builds our incredible community. Hit that subscribe button now and join us. This is Margaret Hartwell, signing off from Charleston, South Carolina, where the truth is always better than a lie, where betrayal can lead to liberation, and where mothers will always protect their daughters, no matter what it costs. Plus, the aftermath of Bradley's exposure rippled through Charleston in ways I couldn't have anticipated. His family, the Morrisons, had been pillars of Charleston society for generations. They owned historic properties downtown, sat on boards of prestigious organizations, and their name carried weight in every business circle that mattered. When the scandal broke, they went into crisis management mode, but their efforts only made things worse. Bradley's father, William Morrison, called me 2 weeks after the discovery. His voice was cold, businesslike, as if we were negotiating a real estate deal rather than discussing his son's infidelity. "Margaret, we need to discuss how to handle this situation discreetly, for everyone's benefit, including Claire's." I was in my office when he called, reviewing contracts for a waterfront property sale. I set down my pen and leaned back in my chair, already knowing where this conversation was headed. "William, there's nothing to handle. Your son had an affair. Claire is divorcing him. That's not a situation to manage. That's a consequence to accept. Now, Margaret, let's be reasonable. Young marriages hit rough patches. Bradley made a mistake, certainly, but divorce seems extreme. Think about Claire's future. Being a divorcee in Charleston society, it's not ideal for her prospects." I actually laughed at that, a sharp, bitter sound that surprised even me. Her prospects? "William, your son brought his mistress to my beach house repeatedly. He violated my property and my trust while destroying his marriage. And you're concerned about Claire's prospects? She's a pediatric nurse with a doctorate degree. She'll be fine. Can you say the same about Bradley?" There was a long pause. "We're prepared to make this worth everyone's while. A generous settlement for Claire, compensation for your beach house troubles. All we ask is discretion. No public mudslinging, no drama. Let's keep this between families." "You want to buy our silence?" I stood up, too agitated to sit. "You want to throw money at the problem so Bradley doesn't face the social consequences of his actions. The answer is no, William. Claire doesn't want your money. She wants a divorce. And I don't want compensation. I want your son to stay away from my daughter and accept responsibility for destroying his marriage. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel as we continue this story. We're building toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support is crucial. Click subscribe now." William's tone turned cold. "You're making a mistake, Margaret. The Morrisons have considerable influence in this city. This hostility serves no one." "Is that a threat, William? Because if you're suggesting you'll use your influence to hurt my business or my daughter's career, I should remind you that I've been successfully navigating Charleston's real estate market for 30 years. My reputation is built on honesty and integrity, 2 things your son clearly knows nothing about. If you want to play hardball, I'm ready. But I promise you, the Morrison name will suffer far more than the Hartwell name when people learn the full extent of Bradley's behavior." He hung up without another word. 3 days later, I received a formal letter from the Morrison family attorney, threatening legal action if I continued to defame Bradley Morrison's character through gossip and slander. I immediately forwarded it to Claire's divorce attorney, who found it both laughable and potentially useful in settlement negotiations. You don't threaten legal action for slander when the truth is on the other side's side. It just makes you look desperate and guilty. The social fallout accelerated. Charleston operates on networks of families, connections going back generations, and gossip travels faster than humidity in July. What the Morrisons didn't seem to understand is that trying to suppress scandal only makes it more delicious. Within weeks, everyone knew the details. The affair, the beach house, even the identity of the mistress. Jessica, the junior analyst, became persona non grata at every social function. I actually felt a small amount of sympathy for her, small being the operative word. She was young and stupid, seduced by a married man with money and status. But she was also old enough to know better, old enough to understand that sleeping with a married colleague in someone else's beach house was morally bankrupt. Claire handled the public attention with remarkable dignity. She refused to discuss the details publicly, simply stating that she and Bradley were divorcing due to irreconcilable differences. She went to work, took care of her patients, and held her head high. People respected that. They saw a young woman betrayed but not broken, handling crisis with grace. Meanwhile, Bradley's attempts at damage control made him look worse. He gave an interview to a local society magazine that was supposed to rehabilitate his image, but instead made him sound entitled and delusional. If you're enjoying this continuation, please hit that subscribe button. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support helps us keep sharing these stories. Subscribe now. In the interview, Bradley claimed that the affair happened because he was going through a difficult time at work and made poor choices during a period of stress. He talked about how much he still loved Claire and hoped they could reconcile. He positioned himself as the victim of a moment of weakness, rather than someone who had conducted a months-long affair with calculated deception. The article quoted him saying, "Everyone makes mistakes. I hope Charleston's community can find it in their hearts to forgive and support both Claire and me during this difficult time." Claire called me after the article came out, her voice shaking with rage. "Did you read it, Mom? Did you see what he said? A period of stress? Poor choices. He's making it sound like he had a bad day and bought an expensive watch, not like he systematically cheated on me for 8 months. I saw it, honey, and so did everyone else. Trust me, that article didn't help him. People aren't stupid. They can read between the lines. He's making himself the victim, like this happened to him instead of because of him. I can't believe I married someone so completely lacking in self-awareness." She was right. The article backfired spectacularly. Social media, which Charleston's older generation pretends to ignore but absolutely monitors, exploded with commentary. People who'd been neutral or sympathetic to Bradley turned against him. The consensus was clear. He'd cheated, got caught, and was now trying to manipulate public opinion, rather than genuinely taking accountability. Several prominent Charleston women, including some of my clients, publicly supported Claire, making statements about standing with women who refused to tolerate infidelity. The divorce proceedings themselves were contentious. Bradley initially fought everything, refusing to agree to Claire's terms, trying to claim he deserved alimony because he'd left his job and Claire was still employed. His attorney actually argued that Bradley had been the primary social architect of their marriage, using his family connections to benefit Claire's career, and therefore deserved compensation for that contribution. It was absurd, offensive, and ultimately unsuccessful. Claire's attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen, who specialized in high-conflict divorces, demolished that argument in about 15 minutes. She presented evidence of Claire's independent career success, documentation of Bradley's income during the marriage, and testimony about his affair that painted him as anything but a supportive spouse. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who'd probably seen every divorce trick in the book, was not impressed with Bradley's claims. Your subscription means we can continue bringing you these real-life stories. Please click that subscribe button and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Join our community. What surprised everyone was the property division. Claire wanted nothing from the marriage except her personal belongings and her car. She didn't want the house, the furniture, the wedding gifts, nothing. Bradley tried to frame this as proof that he deserved a better settlement, but Patricia explained Claire's reasoning to the judge. "Your Honor, my client wants a clean break from this marriage. She views everything they acquired together as tainted by his betrayal. She's willing to walk away from significant assets because her mental health and fresh start are worth more than any material possessions." The judge actually paused at that and looked at Claire. "Mrs. Morrison, you understand you're entitled to 50% of marital assets. You're giving up considerable financial security by refusing your share." Claire stood up to address the judge directly, something Patricia had coached her on. "Your Honor, I understand, but I don't want anything that reminds me of this marriage or this man. I have a good career, I can support myself, and I value my peace of mind more than money or property. I just want the divorce finalized so I can move on with my life." The courtroom was silent. Even Bradley's attorney looked uncomfortable. The judge nodded slowly. "Very well. I'm granting the divorce as requested. Mr. Morrison, I hope you understand what you've lost. This court is adjourned." Walking out of that courthouse was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. Claire was officially free, legally untethered from Bradley Morrison and all the pain he represented. We went to lunch afterward at Magnolia's, one of our favorite restaurants, and celebrated with she-crab soup and champagne. Patricia joined us, and we toasted to new beginnings and the end of toxic marriages. "You're one of the strongest women I've ever represented," Patricia told Claire. "Most people in your position would have fought for every penny out of spite, if nothing else. Walking away with nothing but your dignity takes a different kind of strength." Claire smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen in weeks. He already took enough from me. I wasn't going to let him take my future too by dragging this out for months, fighting over furniture and bank accounts. I'm free now. That's worth more than anything. Please subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support keeps these stories coming and builds our amazing community. Hit that subscribe button. The months following the divorce were about rebuilding. Claire threw herself into creating a life that was entirely hers. She sold some jewelry Bradley had given her, not out of spite, but because she wanted no reminders, and used the money to take a trip to Italy. She'd always wanted to go, but Bradley had preferred Caribbean resorts. She spent 2 weeks exploring Florence, Rome, and the Amalfi Coast, sending me photos of stunning architecture and beautiful coastal views. She looked happy in those photos, truly happy, in a way she hadn't looked during her marriage. When she returned, she started seriously house hunting. I helped her, of course, using my professional expertise to find the perfect place. We looked at dozens of properties before finding the cottage in Old Village. It was small, just 2 bedrooms, with a garden that needed work, and a porch that wrapped around 2 sides. But it had charm and character, and most importantly, it was hers. No shared memories, no ghosts of a failed marriage, just a blank canvas for her new life. We spent weekends renovating that cottage. I'm not particularly handy, but I can paint, and Claire discovered a talent for gardening. We painted the bedroom a soft sage green, hung white curtains that billowed in the breeze, and refinished the hardwood floors. Claire planted roses in the garden, herbs in window boxes, and a magnolia tree in the backyard. That tree was symbolic, she told me. Magnolias are resilient. They bloom beautifully even after harsh winters, and they're quintessentially Charleston. She was planting roots, literally and figuratively, in soil that belonged only to her. Thomas entered her life during this rebuilding phase. They met at a community garden volunteer day that Claire had signed up for on a whim. She told me later that she'd gone expecting to spend a quiet morning planting vegetables, and instead found herself working alongside this kind man with gentle hands and a quick laugh. They talked while planting tomatoes, discovered they both loved historical fiction and Italian food, and by the end of the morning, Thomas had asked for her number. Claire was hesitant at first. She told me about him but insisted it wasn't serious, that she was just enjoying having a friend. But I could see the difference in her. She started smiling at her phone, making plans for weekends, buying new clothes. She was cautious, protecting her healing heart, but also opening herself to possibility. That balance, that ability to be vulnerable again while maintaining healthy boundaries, showed how much she'd grown. If you're still with us, please make sure you're subscribed. We're building toward 1,000 subscribers and your support is everything. Click subscribe now. I met Thomas about 2 months into their relationship. Claire invited us both to Sunday brunch at her cottage, nervous about the introduction. I arrived early to help her prepare, and she kept adjusting things, moving the flower arrangement, rearranging the table settings. Mom, what if you don't like him? What if he's too nervous and says something stupid? What if... Claire, I interrupted gently. Breathe. If you love him, I'm going to love him. And if I don't immediately love him, I'll give him a fair chance because you deserve happiness. Thomas arrived exactly on time, carrying flowers for Claire and a bottle of wine for me. He was tall, with kind eyes and an easy smile, dressed casually but neatly in khakis and a button-down shirt. He shook my hand firmly, looked me in the eye and said, Mrs. Hartwell, thank you for having me. Claire has told me so much about you. We spent 3 hours together that Sunday, and I watched how he treated my daughter. He listened when she spoke, laughed at her jokes, helped clear plates without being asked, and looked at her like she was the most interesting person in the room. He didn't try too hard to impress me, didn't dominate conversation, didn't perform. He was just genuinely himself, a high school history teacher who loved his students, appreciated good food, and clearly adored my daughter. After he left, Claire turned to me anxiously. Well, what do you think? I think he's nothing like Bradley, and that's the highest compliment I can give. I think he's kind and authentic, and he makes you happy. I think you should keep him. She laughed and hugged me. I plan to. Watching their relationship develop was healing for both of us. Thomas met her friends, integrated into her life, supported her career. When she had hard days at the hospital, losing a young patient or dealing with difficult families, he was there with comfort and understanding. He didn't try to fix things or minimize her feelings. He just held space for her emotions and reminded her why she loved being a nurse. Make sure you're part of our community by subscribing. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers and every subscription matters. Hit that subscribe button now. The proposal happened a 1.5 years after they started dating, during a trip to Middleton Place, one of Charleston's historic plantation gardens. Thomas had planned it carefully, arranging a private picnic in a secluded spot overlooking the Ashley River. Claire called me immediately afterward, crying happy tears, and I cried with her. This was what love was supposed to look like. This was the marriage she deserved, built on honesty and mutual respect and genuine partnership. The engagement period has been everything the planning for her first wedding wasn't. No stress about impressing anyone, no complicated family politics, no pressure to create some society event. Just 2 people planning a celebration of their commitment surrounded by people who love them. The guest list is small, maybe 50 people, all friends and close family. The venue is beautiful but intimate, a historic garden that blooms beautifully in spring. Claire's dress is simple and elegant, nothing like the elaborate gown she wore for Bradley, which she donated to a charity that provides wedding dresses to military brides. I'm standing with her through this process, but it's different this time. She doesn't need me to guide her or reassure her. She's confident in her choices, secure in her relationship, excited about her future. I'm just here to celebrate with her, to hold her hand when she gets emotional, to zip up her dress on the big day. That's what this season of life should be. Not crisis management or damage control, but pure celebration. Bradley has faded into irrelevance in our lives. We heard through mutual acquaintances that he's dating someone in Atlanta, working for a smaller investment firm, living a diminished version of the life he had in Charleston. I feel no satisfaction in that, and no sympathy either. He made his choices, and now lives with them. Claire never speaks about him, and when someone occasionally asks how she's recovered from her divorce, she smiles and says, "I didn't just recover. I thrived." That's the truth of it. She didn't just survive betrayal. She transformed it into fuel for becoming a stronger, wiser, happier version of herself. She learned what she wouldn't tolerate, what real love looked like, and what she deserved from a partner. Those lessons, as painful as they were to learn, gave her the foundation for building something beautiful with Thomas. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Claire and Thomas are giddy with anticipation, finalizing details and counting down days. I've been honored with a special role in the ceremony. Since Claire's father passed away years ago, she asked if I would walk her down the aisle. I cried when she asked, understanding the symbolism. I'd supported her through the wreckage of her first marriage. Now I deliver her into a second marriage built on a foundation strong enough to last. Your subscription helps us continue sharing these powerful stories. Please click subscribe and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Join us now. Last week, Claire and I were addressing wedding invitations at her cottage. Murphy was sleeping at our feet, and Thomas was at a faculty meeting. She paused in her writing and looked at me thoughtfully. "Mom, do you ever think about that day, when you found Bradley at the beach house?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "Usually when I'm reflecting on how far we've come." "I used to be so angry at you," she said quietly. "Not for long. Maybe just those first few hours. I was angry that you'd told me. Angry that you'd shattered my illusion of a happy marriage. I wanted to believe it wasn't true, even though I knew it was." "I know, honey. I understood that anger. But now I'm so grateful. You gave me the truth even though it hurt me. You freed me from a lie that would have wasted years of my life. If you hadn't gone to the beach house that day, if you hadn't told me immediately, I might have had children with him. I might have stayed trapped in that marriage for decades. You saved me." I reached across the table and took her hand. "You saved yourself, Claire. I just gave you information. You made the brave choices. You left. You healed. You opened your heart again. That was all you." She squeezed my hand. "We saved each other then. And now we get to celebrate together. That's what this has all been about. Not just surviving trauma, but transforming it into wisdom and strength. Not just ending what was broken, but building something beautiful from the pieces." Claire's second wedding won't erase the pain of her first marriage, but it will prove that pain doesn't have to be permanent. That betrayal doesn't have to mean the end of trust. That love, real love, still exists and is worth believing in. As I prepare for her wedding day, I think about how much has changed since that horrible Thursday afternoon 3 years ago. I sold the beach house but found peace. Claire divorced Bradley but found Thomas. We both faced devastating betrayal but emerged stronger. The journey wasn't easy. There were countless nights of tears, sessions with therapists, moments of doubt and despair. But we walked through the fire and came out refined, not destroyed. Please subscribe to our channel to continue following stories like Claire's. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. Your support means everything. Click that subscribe button. Charleston hasn't forgotten the scandal, but it's moved on to newer dramas. The Morrisons still maintain their social position, though somewhat diminished. Bradley is rarely discussed anymore, having become just another cautionary tale about the consequences of infidelity. Jessica apparently moved to California and started fresh there, and Claire has become something of a local inspiration, the woman who refused to be defined by her husband's betrayal, and instead chose to define herself. The greatest revenge, they say, is living well. Claire is living exceptionally well. She's excelling in her career, recently promoted to charge nurse in her unit. She's happy in a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine love. She owns her own home, has a dog she adores, and is planning a wedding that reflects who she truly is rather than what society expects. She's become the woman she was always meant to be, unburdened by a man who didn't deserve her. As for me, I've learned that protecting my daughter sometimes means delivering devastating news. It means standing firm against social pressure and family manipulation. It means supporting her choices even when they're difficult. And it means celebrating her victories with unbridled joy. I wouldn't change what happened, even though it was agonizing, because the path through that pain led to something better than what we had before. 3 weeks from now, I'll walk my daughter down the aisle toward a man who truly loves her, who sees her value, who will honor his vows. The garden will bloom with spring flowers, friends will gather to celebrate, and Claire will start a new chapter written on her own terms. That's not just a happy ending. That's a triumph. That's justice. That's proof that sometimes the worst moments create space for the best ones to follow. So yes, I stopped by my beach house and caught my son-in-law in bed with his mistress. It shattered our world. But from those shattered pieces, we built something stronger, more honest, more beautiful. And that makes all the difference.